So we just opened our offices in San Francisco. So we have a global market, and actually we need to have a global market. It's quite important to notice that the market today is really global, and so successful companies are either only American or global. So there's no choice. So maybe you are able to succeed only with Europe at all, but not France, just like only Paris or only France. It's too short. So we open our offices in San Francisco. It will be first a sales office. We had a discussion about moving the headquarters, so moving myself, moving the rest of the company. So it's not a choice that we have taken today. It might not be a definitive choice. It's possible that we move completely the company at some time. But today we are opening only a sales office, and what we see from our market is that people would like to see, so not myself, so they don't claim to see the CEO, they just don't bother about it, but they want to see a factory in California. So the next move will probably be, and once again, this is completely secret, the next move will probably be a factory in California.
Can go to Seattle also and Boston. No, I'm kidding. How about you? Like, how do you do that? Like, do you start with Europe? Do you wake up and say, okay, we're just going to be South America, Europe, China? Like, how do you deal with, worldwide expansion? And did you do that from day one, or?
I think we're relatively typical for an American company. We started in the U.S. and really spent the first 5 years 110% focused on that market. It's a giant native market. And then in January of this year, we opened our European headquarters, and after a lot of deliberation, we picked Dublin, and we have about 40 people in Dublin. And it's mostly sales and marketing, but we also hired 4 or 5 developers, so we're going to build part of our product in Dublin as well. And then we'll keep going. We'll keep going across Europe. We'll go to China. We'll go to Japan. We'll go around the world, but I think we're fairly typical. We start in the U.S., stayed in the U.S. for a while, and then when we felt we were ready, we went to Europe.
Yeah, so when we started Salesforce, I think probably because Mark Benioff had experience with Oracle and how Oracle grew, and he knew how hard Asia would be as a market to penetrate. Yeah, it takes a long time. So when we started Salesforce, we created a KK in Japan, a separate company, pretty much day one. We were in the apartment. Mark had these Japanese people come to our laboratory, he called it. Like, well, this is not a laboratory. But we were talking to them super early. So we planned to be global from day one. We went to Japan super early, but it took a long time to grow that. We started on the internet, so ironically, we had business in Australia and business in the UK, business in Ireland, because people had come to us on the internet and signed up online and started using us. We didn't really have a presence, but, and Brian, you probably get that as well. We then started to penetrate Europe. We made a mistake and did not focus, and so we said, all right, we're going to go into Europe, and we put people in the UK and in France and in Germany and Spain and Italy and all over, and you can't do it that way because we're not focusing our resources. You need to have a strong presence. You need marketing dollars to drive pipeline. You need, you have to focus. And so now we have more of what are our top country focus, and we can expand that as we grow. But we have a top country focus. We have 7 or 8 countries that we focus on as our top countries. And then we have a few that we look at as the emerging markets that we want to go to. And those are maybe a little bit more experimental, but we recognize as that.
All right. Guys, we've passed the first hour, so I'm going to do something we do at Startup Weekend just to wake up everybody. If everybody can stand up, I'm just going to be doing a little shaking here, like a little bit of just shake a little, like, can you jump? Just wake up. I will start to ask you to really think about the kind of questions you'd like to ask everybody here. And also, I'm still going to test your clapping power. Can you guys clap a little bit? Can you clap louder? More? Can you scream also? No screaming? Well, that's all right. We'll try. You guys on the right side. I don't know what's happening. I need to, can you clap on the right side? Just the right side? Ah, that's good. Left side working. Ah, that's better. Middle? Yeah. All right. Let's get back to it. It was 1 hour already, guys. Good job. So yeah, really start thinking about the questions. We're going to open that, I guess, like in 30 minutes Q&A. So, you know, take a piece of paper, and if anything pops in your brain, like just go for it. Think about things that pops in my brain, like, yeah, I wanted to ask you maybe about, like, and again, I'm trying to follow the, you know, the whole, like, from the beginning to when you grow. But there is something common to everybody here is competition. And how do you deal with it? Like, how does it feel, I guess, at the early stage when you're like, oh, I'm doing this startup. It's, oh, it's exactly like this one that does exactly the same thing that I know about. Or when you're this bigger startup, or actually Salesforce in a way. I mean, right now I guess you position yourself in this way. Like, when you started, I guess maybe you were compared to Oracle or SAP and or things like that, and that was your strength was maybe to be like saying like we're actually the opposite. Like there's a book, I can't remember, I think it's 49 Signal, who say like pick your enemy. How do you embrace competition? Do you pick an enemy? Do you differentiate yourself? Do you just ignore it?
You can't ignore. You can't. When you have competition, of course, that's great because it validates the market you are working on. So for us, in our specific area, there are many coming from California. So what I do is that I frequently go in San Francisco, and I try to be confronted to them. I try to meet the founders personally, because yes, it's a very great way to share ideas with them and to see, you know, to position yourself. The cloud computing allows you to do that today, to compete at a worldwide level, okay, with American. So that's great. It means that you have a worldwide playground in terms of customers. The downside is that you also need marketing and financing to compete at this worldwide level, and those Californian guys has a lot of fundings. At the end of the day, it's the products who won. So product first, and yes, it's a good sign to have competition, and you know, I love that. And in Cloud BI, in our space, I'm very confident because there is space enough for Cloud BI matters. So that's right. But you have to position yourself regularly, to meet them regularly also, yeah.
How about you, Clément? How do you deal with Shapeways or any others?
Oh, I don't know this company. So, yeah, that's a hard question. So, yeah, first, it's very good to have competition. I will just tell you a story. In 2001, I was doing a wireless router, so doing internet at home with no wire. No, I mean it. It's true. It exists. But in 2001, it wasn't possible to have internet at home without any network cable. And we hadn't no competition. No, not a single other company was doing exactly this product. And it was so bad because when I get home and when I go with my friends, I tell them I'm doing a wireless router. They just tell me, okay, I don't need a wireless router. I have my network cable over my place. I don't need a wireless router. Why are you doing this? And it takes 3 years in France, or probably 2 years outside France, but it takes 3 years for these products to really exist, to get media attention, to get consumer attention, and to find this market. So competition is good. So now what do we do with Shapeways? We try to differentiate. And from the beginning, we are quite different. We are engineers, we are technology people, and they are more or less marketing and financial people. So today they raised about 10 times what we can raise in France. So we finished a round of financing 6 months ago, and they announced 1 month ago a raising fund of more than 10 times what we raised. For us, it's a good news because they are really driving the market. For my VC, it's a gray news. We just don't know. So we have to differentiate, of course, and I would say that we are working on what we can with our financial power, and we work on a cloud-based solution where a lot of partners operate already, and they use our APIs to embed 3D printing into their business. So it's a little bit more complex than just adding CRM or agenda or this kind of thing in a business, because it's going to production. So we are creating real stuff. But we try to do this in a cloud-based infrastructure. So this pottery that you can see in the machine has been done by a game, and the game developer doesn't know about 3D printing. He created the game in 3 years ago, I think, and they just integrated our cloud-based infrastructure, and now, so the game was just a simulation of doing pottery. It's an iPad game. It's a very successful game. It's called Pottery. So
they're being creative to differentiate, like
Yeah.
so using creativity.
Yeah.
Like, and how about you, Brian? Like, do you guys have any competitors?
We do. We have alternatives more than competitors. There's a great book written by 2 Frenchmen, Blue Ocean Strategy. And we read that right when we were starting Hubspot. And they built these very nice maps of how you think about the competitive landscape. When we think about the competitive landscape, we don't think about a specific vendor. We think about, okay, what's the vendor, but what are the alternatives? So when we think about our competition, we don't think it's another marketing software company like Marketo or Eloqua or ExactTarget. We think of our competition as a combination of WordPress and Drupal for website management, Google Analytics for web analytics, Hootsuite for social media marketing, some email marketing vendor, plus a consultant for SEO. We think of 4, 5, 6 different things glued together with a consultant. That's our competition. And so when we think about competition, it's about how do we make life easier for our customer relative to the alternative. And the best example in Blue Ocean Strategy of doing that was Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines didn't look at American Airlines or Delta Airlines as their competitor. They looked at mom and dad getting in the car with Junior and the dog and the cat and driving 7 hours to Disney World. So when they looked at it that way, when they looked at the competition as getting in the car for a long drive, instead of looking at the competition like American Airlines, they thought of their business in a completely different way. So that's sort of how we think about competition. There's a great saying we have inside of Hubspot. We say it over and over again. It's watch the competition, but never follow them.
It's not a zero-sum game. And how about you? I think, do you have competitors or do you just acquire them?
So I have 2 answers. One is a tactical, and so our head of competitive intelligence uses the term crash, crash, crash. And so inside of Salesforce, we definitely have a tactical view of competition where we're analyzing them, we're figuring out how to respond, not from a product perspective, but positioning, marketing, sales, which is very important. It's just a tactical way to think, to look at competition. To Brian's point, I agree. From a strategic perspective, we think of it more as jujitsu, is what we say. So with jujitsu, if your opponent, you don't go and attack your opponent's coming at you, and as they come at you, you use all of their power coming at you and turn it around on them. And so you're not following them. You're not trying to paint yourself in their image and think, okay, how do I have to respond strategically? I need to change. You do it more from, you need to be true to yourself, true to what you believe in, where you're going. Listen to your customers. Don't listen to your competition. Your customers will tell you where you need to go. Your customers told you what they needed, simpler models, you know, probably easier to use analytics. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing. Don't listen to your competition, and you know, but you know, you definitely don't have to be nice to them. You know, you can. We're out here to win, and you know, you got to do what you got to do.
I like the jiu-jitsu analogy. Like it's.
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
So one thing we copied from Salesforce that's brilliant was they have this great symbol of software with the big giant X through it. And they've been using that damn symbol now for like 15 years. They still use it. And they beat the drum, beat the drum, beat the drum. And what they're very good at in the early days was sort of, and I think this is valuable for startups, is they polarize the market. And I think in the early days, I remember when they were first coming out, I think 10% of the world said, these guys are right. Software's dead. They're just dead. 90% of the world said, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And then over time now, kind of everybody agrees with them. We sort of said, well, let's use that play. And we kind of say, you know, traditional PR is dead. Traditional outbound sales is dead. Traditional email marketing is dead. Advertising is dead. So we sort of play the game of sticking our finger in the eye of these other things and polarize. And that's played well for us as well. We sort of took that play from you guys.
I will say it was much more fun when we were smaller because we could be, you know, the little guy picking on the big guy, and we would draft everybody else. And so we sent people to Oracle Open World, you know, and they were actors, and we had them, you know, interview people and say, you know, how do you feel about software? And they thought they were being interviewed, you know, and they're like, oh, well, and we would video it, and we would do all these stunts at various events. Some we didn't do, like we had an idea we were going to drive a tank around Moscone. It's a good thing we didn't. But we would draft on other marketing, and that's something that we've definitely learned is, you know, you want to be named. Every time your competitor is named, I mean, it's basic marketing. You want your name in there. Whether it's good or bad, you want your name in there. And the more that you can get your name out there, you know, Salesforce, if you see what we do, you're here at an event. And so we do events all over the world. And what we do is we are trying to drive both, you know, the events are for our customers. So it's education, you know, it's connectivity with each other, you know, with us and our customers with each other. But it's also, we're very PR driven. We are trying to drive as much press as we can. We look at this event, how much press are we driving? That press then drives people to read the press. And when they read the press, then they ideally go to our website. When they go to our website, we get your information, and then we have an army of salespeople that call you. And that's what we do. And it's kind of viral, you know, it's PR marketing. And we do some brand marketing, but that's what we did early on is we spent a ton of money on cloud computing and brand and no software, which is great, but that doesn't drive your business. It drives your brand.
You guys all know, or you might not know, but Schumpeter, who talk about creative destruction, and in a way, saying entrepreneurs are people that create and destroy. So would you say that you actually destroyed software? Is it something that, you see what I mean? And the same for you, actually, like when I look at inbound marketing versus the outbound marketing, like this is a trade show in a way, like how things evolve, like when you actually succeed in disrupting the market, and then you're right here. It's I just wonder, like, what's next when you achieved your goal? In a way, like when you actually you become, as you said, like you used to be the small guy picking at a big guy. What happened when you're the big guy? And you know, how do you deal with that?
You have to be nice. When you're the big guy, we aren't the big guy. There are people bigger than us. I think you know who they are. So we still have our targets. But then we look at, not from a competition perspective, but we look at smaller companies like Hubspot, and we really admire them. And we invest in a lot of companies, and we do acquire lots of companies. And a lot of that is not to, we never have the attitude of trying to take people out of the market. I think that's just a bad practice, and there are some companies that do that. We are trying to continue to innovate, and what we worry most about is is Brian going to do to us what we did to Siebel?
Maybe.
and you know, you never know. So you got to stay scared.